The ground should not breathe like this, not in short, desperate gasps, not in silence. And yet, there it is, your soil, cracked open like an old wound, swallowing water faster than you can pour it. You stand there with the hose, watching it happen. Gallons vanish in seconds. No pooling, no resistance, just disappearance, as if the earth itself has learned how to lie to you. The surface darkens, briefly convincing, a thin illusion of moisture. But beneath, bone dry, starving, hollow, something that refuses to give back. Now slow down, step away from the noise of modern gardening. Forget the polished bags of miracle soil and the quiet promises printed on plastic. Imagine instead a quieter place, a dense jungle, heat pressing against your skin, the air thick with life and decay. Somewhere deep in that green labyrinth, long before hoses and irrigation systems, people faced the same problem you're facing now. Water disappeared, soil betrayed them, and yet they solved it. If you want to see what they discovered and why it was never meant to reach you, you're going to have to stay with me. Waiting to be remembered. Long before irrigation lines carved their rigid paths through suburban gardens, before fertilizers were packaged into brightly colored bags and sold with quiet authority, there existed a civilization that understood something far more dangerous than abundance. They understood restraint. The Maya civilization did not farm against the land. They farmed with its secrets. Secrets that did not announce themselves, that did not glitter with convenience, but instead waited beneath the surface, hidden in plain sight. Their world was not forgiving. The tropical soils of Mesoamerica were thin, volatile, and easily exhausted. Rain came in violent bursts, then disappeared for long, punishing stretches. To an untrained eye, it was a place where agriculture should have failed. And yet, the Maya built cities that pulsed with life, feeding tens of thousands, sustaining complex societies where others would have starved. They did not do this by overpowering the soil. They did it by listening to it. Archaeologists have spent decades trying to decode how they managed it. In regions surrounding places like Tikal, they found something strange beneath the roots of ancient crops, structures that did not belong to nature alone. Subtle channels, hollow spaces, materials arranged, not randomly, but intentionally. It wasn't irrigation in the way we understand it. It was something quieter, something patient, a method of holding water where it wanted to escape. But this knowledge did not survive intact. When the Spanish arrived, they did not just conquer land, they dismantled systems. They burned codices, entire libraries of recorded knowledge, reducing centuries of agricultural wisdom into ash. What remained was fragmented, misunderstood, often dismissed as primitive. Later, as industrial agriculture took hold, a different kind of erasure occurred. Not through fire, but through replacement. Why preserve a slow, elegant system when you could sell a faster one? Why teach people to work with soil when you could teach them to depend on products? And so, the enemy was born, not as a single force, but as a layered illusion. Ignorance wrapped in convenience. Marketing disguised as progress. Entire industries built on the idea that soil is something you must constantly fix, constantly feed, constantly fight. The quieter methods, the ones that required observation instead of consumption, were pushed aside. Not because they didn't work, but because they didn't need to be sold. The Maya method, this strange, almost invisible way of trapping moisture beneath the surface, did not vanish completely. It lingered in fragments, in rural practices, in overlooked traditions. But without context, without explanation, it became just another forgotten habit, stripped of its power. What they understood, and what we lost, was not just a technique. It was a relationship. A way of thinking about water, not as something you apply, but something you guide, something you persuade to stay. And once you begin to see it that way, the entire system starts to unravel. What you are witnessing when the water vanishes is not magic. It is physics, stripped of narrative, operating with brutal indifference. Gravity pulls, soil resists, or fails to. And between those two forces, your effort either holds or disappears. Most modern garden soil, especially the kind shaped by years of surface watering, behaves like a sieve with memory loss. The top layer becomes conditioned to brief, shallow exposure. It darkens quickly, giving the illusion of absorption. But beneath that thin skin, the structure is broken. Large pores dominate. Water slips through them too fast, pulled downward beyond the reach of roots before it can be used. This is called gravitational drainage, and in poorly structured soil, it is relentless. But the Maya, whether they named it or not, understood something closer to what we now call capillary action and moisture retention gradients. They understood that water does not need to be forced into the soil. It needs to be slowed down inside it. When you insert a porous structure into a vertical channel, you are not just creating space. You are rewriting the physics of that space. The hollow bamboo, the bundled sticks, the organic material, these become micro-reservoirs, tiny interruptions in the downward rush of water. Instead of a single, uninterrupted path where gravity dominates, you introduce friction, delay, and distribution. Water enters the channel and encounters resistance. It clings to the surfaces inside, absorbing into fibers, coating the inner walls, pooling in microscopic pockets. This is where capillary forces begin to compete with gravity. The water is no longer free to escape immediately. It is held, suspended in a delicate balance. And then comes the part that changes everything. From these micro-reservoirs, water begins to move outward, not downward. Slowly, radially. The surrounding soil, especially if it contains even modest organic matter, starts to draw that moisture in through capillary pull. Instead of a vertical loss, you create a horizontal spread, a quiet expansion of hydration, exactly where roots can access it. Roots, by nature, are opportunists. They grow toward moisture gradients. In dry, surface-watered systems, they stay shallow, chasing fleeting signals near the top. But when moisture is held deeper, stable, and persistent, something shifts. Roots begin to descend. They anchor. They explore. They form networks that are less vulnerable to heat, to drought, to the daily fluctuations that weaken plants over time. Temperature plays its role too, though most never notice it. Moist soil retains heat differently than dry soil. By stabilizing moisture below the surface, you create a thermal buffer. The root zone remains cooler during the day, warmer at night. Stress decreases. Biological activity increases. Microorganisms, those invisible engineers of fertility, begin to thrive in the presence of consistent moisture. They break down organic matter, release nutrients, build structure. The soil, once passive, becomes active again. And this is where the deeper truth begins to surface. Modern watering methods often fight against time. They deliver water in bursts, overwhelming the soil, then abandoning it to dry out again. It is a cycle of extremes, flood and drought, over and over. But the system you are building with this method interrupts that cycle. It introduces continuity. A slow, controlled release that aligns more closely with how plants actually consume water. You are no longer watering the surface. You are feeding a system. And systems, once properly aligned, require far less intervention than chaos. What looks like a simple tube buried in the ground is, in reality, a quiet re-engineering of forces, a shift from loss to retention, from surface illusion to subsurface truth. Once you understand that, it becomes impossible to unsee. The first time you do it, it will feel almost too simple. That is part of the deception you've been trained to believe, that anything powerful must look complicated, engineered, or expensive. But this begins with your hands, with the soil, with a quiet willingness to undo what you've been taught. You choose a spot near the base of your plant, not directly at the stem, but just off to the side, where the roots stretch outward, searching. The earth there is familiar, dry on top, slightly cooler beneath. You press your fingers into it, feeling resistance, then give. And then you begin to dig. Not a wide hole, not a trench, just a narrow, vertical channel, deep enough to reach past the layer where water usually disappears too quickly. You are not creating space for roots. You are creating a place for water to rest. The tool doesn't matter. A simple stick, a piece of rebar, even your hand, if the soil allows it. What matters is the depth, the intention. the quiet precision of the act. Then comes the material. This is where the ritual begins to reveal itself. You take something organic, something porous. It could be a hollow bamboo segment, open at both ends. It could be a bundle of small sticks tied loosely together. Even a cluster of dry plant stems will work. The goal is not perfection. The goal is structure, something that resists collapse while inviting space. You lower it into the hole, slowly, until it disappears beneath the surface, leaving just the faintest suggestion of its presence. And then you cover it, lightly, not sealing it, not burying it completely, just enough to allow the soil to breathe over it again. When you water now, you do not flood the surface. You guide the water toward this hidden channel, and something subtle begins to happen. The water does not vanish. It slows. It slips downward, held within the hollow spaces you've created. Instead of spreading thin and evaporating under the sun, it lingers, suspended, available. Hours later, when the surface has already dried and fooled you into thinking everything is lost, something else is happening below. The moisture remains. It seeps outward, not in a rush, but in a steady, almost deliberate release. The roots find it, not all at once, not wastefully, but as they need it. The soil, once hostile and fleeting, begins to behave differently. It begins to cooperate. There was a gardener in Arizona, a man named Daniel Reyes, who tried this out of frustration more than belief. His backyard soil was merciless, sandy, unforgiving, the kind that drinks water without gratitude. He installed 3 of these vertical channels using cut bamboo he sourced locally. At first, nothing dramatic happened. But within 2 weeks, something shifted. His watering frequency dropped by nearly half. The plants, which had been surviving, began to deepen in color. Leaves thickened. Growth steadied. He measured it because he didn't trust what he was seeing. Over a month, his water usage dropped by almost 40%. Not through restriction, not through sacrifice, but through retention. The water he was already using simply stopped disappearing. Another case surfaced quietly in Northern California. A small urban grower named Lisa Tran applied the same method in raised beds that had been drying out faster each summer. She replaced constant surface watering with these hidden reservoirs. The result wasn't immediate growth. It was stability. Soil that stayed cool longer into the day, roots that reached deeper instead of spreading thin near the surface. Her yields didn't just increase, they became consistent, predictable, as if the chaos had been removed from the system. This is not irrigation in the modern sense. There are no timers, no pressure systems, no plastic lines stretching across your garden like veins. This is something older, more patient, a collaboration between structure and gravity, between material and time. And the strangest part is this. Once you do it, once you witness how the soil responds, you begin to notice how unnecessary so much of the old routine was. The endless watering, the constant checking, the quiet anxiety of wondering if it's ever enough. Because for the first time, it is. There is a moment, quiet and almost unsettling, when you realize the soil was never the problem. It wasn't broken. It wasn't deficient. It wasn't waiting for another product, another formula, another intervention disguised as progress. It was responding, perfectly, predictably, to the way you were treating it. And when you changed that, even slightly, the entire relationship shifted. What the Maya understood was not just how to keep water in the ground. They understood how to stop interfering with processes that were already trying to work. They didn't force abundance. They created the conditions where it could happen on its own. And that is the part that modern systems quietly resist, because a method that reduces dependency is a method that cannot be easily controlled, packaged, or sold. So the question is no longer whether this technique works. You've already seen that it does. The question is, what else you've been taught to ignore? Because if something as simple as a hidden channel of moisture can change the behavior of your soil, then what other systems around you are quietly draining your time, your energy, your resources, while convincing you that nothing is wrong? Gardening, at its core, is not about plants. It is about attention, about learning to see what is happening beneath the surface, where the real exchanges take place. Most people never get there. They stay at the level of appearances, reacting to symptoms, adding more, doing more, never realizing that the excess itself is the problem. But once you cross that threshold, once you begin to think in terms of systems instead of surfaces, everything changes. You stop asking how much water is enough. You start asking where the water goes. You stop chasing results. You start shaping conditions. And that is where the real rebellion begins. Not loud, not visible, but deeply effective. There are other methods like this, older, stranger. Techniques that were not erased completely, just fragmented, scattered across time, waiting for someone patient enough to piece them back together. Some deal with roots in ways that defy modern pruning logic. Others manipulate soil life in patterns that seem almost intentional, as if the earth itself were being guided rather than controlled. We will uncover them. But understand this before you move on. Once you see the system, you inherit responsibility. You can no longer claim ignorance. Every drop of water you waste, every cycle you repeat without questioning, becomes a choice, and the soil will respond accordingly. Stay close, because in the next video, we are going deeper into a technique that doesn't just hold water, but changes how roots think.